We recently did a list of what I believed to be the top 15 most overrated cars in the car community today. And today, we're going to do the opposite of that. We're going to flip it on its butthole and stick a finger in there. We're going to be talking about the top 15 most underrated cars in the car community today. Now, some of these cars are definitely talked about for sure, and I'll explain my reasoning when I go over those specific cars. These cars definitely get some love. They're just cars that I believe should get way more love. Okay, I'm not saying that any of these cars are not known. So before you're like going in the comments being like, what? People know that car exists. I hear people talk about it quite often. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that compared to what it like is around, it's underrated in that sense. Also, you guys like the haircut? Thanks. I do too. Without further ado, let's get right into the list with number 15. And coming in at the number 15 spot is the Honda Integra Type R DC5, or as we know it over here in the United States of America, the Acura RSX. That's what we got it as for God knows what reason. Why didn't they just keep calling it the Acura Integra? I don't know. But the reason why I put it on this list isn't because, again, nobody talks about it, because people do talk about this car. There are people that love the RSX, especially when K-Series, like, hello? Like, they like that, you know, that makes them happy. So why is it on this list? Because everyone knows about the DC2 Type R, right? Everybody wants a DC2 Type R. There was one that sold for 100K, like, that's insane. But nobody talks about its little brother, and it's mind-blowing to me, because this car, believe it or not, is faster than the other Integra. It's faster than it, but no one talks about that. Everybody just says like, oh my god, this car was so fast, and no one mentions this one. 14th position is the Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX 2G. This thing is just underrated all around. Like, again, this is another one of those cars where, yes, people do talk about them, and there are people out there that are fans of them. They exist. But there should be so much more. I believe to this day that this should have been like one of those cars that people think of when they talk about JDM legends. You know, I'm talking up there with the freaking R34 GTR, Supra. All the cars were there for it, okay? The big thing was it was Brian O'Connor's first car in Fast and Furious. Everybody watched the Fast and Furious movies, and it made them like cars more than they probably should have liked them. And the fact that this was the first car that Brian O'Connor drove and it didn't get the love is insane. But obviously, we also know that these things come with a 4G63, and it's all-wheel drive. They're insane, an insane good combo for a tuner car, and they're like around 10K right now. That's insane, and people don't talk about these things. Coming in at the number 13 spot, however, is going to a little bit of a guilty pleasure. The Jaguar XKR, specifically the first generation, but honestly, even the second generation, is pretty underrated. Now, the reason why people don't talk about these cars, the reason why people act like they don't like them, because let's be honest, you're lying if you say you don't like the Jaguar XKR. And the reason why they say that, though, is because they're unreliable. They're a British car, British cars are unreliable, and these things are like the epitome of unreliable. But this is, like, that's what blows me away. There are so many unreliable cars in the car community that people love. They don't care about the fact that the RX-7, oh god, it's my favorite car in the world. I love the FTRX-7. I absolutely want one so bad. It's one of the JDM legends. People talk about that all the time. That's unreliable. So why does the Jaguar XKR get so much hate for its unreliability? These things, you can get a first-gen XKR for like around 15 grand. Like, that's insane. These things are like, I remember back in the day, I used to think these things were supercars. 12th place is actually going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's probably going to come out tomorrow, or maybe next week, I don't know, we'll see. But it's the Mazda Miata NB. This is the next good, bad, and ugly video on my channel. And the reason why is this car, again, it's a Miata. How underrated is a Miata gonna possibly be? Well, surprisingly, pretty underrated. Because the NA Miata, we all know and love the NA Miata, right? It's a small little car, little poop sack car, little pop-up headlights. Oh my god, look how cute it is. All the TikTok girls want me. But the NB Miata is just that car, but better. Sorry to hurt your feelings, but it is. The pop-up headlights, as cute as they are, they cause a drag coefficient when they're actually popped up, so they're not even actually that good. The motor is exactly the same, except it actually has less power in the NA. The NB has more power, and the weight is only like 100-pound difference. You literally just, like, when you get into the car, make sure you fart a little bit, and there goes 100 pounds. You're good. You got an NA Miata. It's the same thing. 11th place is going to an absolute legend within the car scene, but I still believe it's underrated. It's the Ferrari F50. Everybody loves the F50, right? Yeah, I would say for the most part, most people like the F50. That's a good car. So why is it on Mark's underrated list? Well, because everybody talks about the F40 like it's one of the best cars of all time. They say that all the time. As a matter of fact, they say quite often that the F40 is Ferrari's best road car of all time. When this kind of shares the same problem with the NB Miata and the Integra we talked about earlier, where it's literally just a better version of the car before it. The F50 is a better car than the F40. Not only in actually driving it as like a person, because it's much more comfortable than the F40. Spoiler alert, the F40 sucks to drive. I mean, at least I've heard. I haven't driven it myself, but everybody that has driven one says they suck. The F50 is much more comfortable in that sense, but it's also just faster. And in my opinion, it looks better. I said it, I'm not going back on it. I think the F50 looks incredibly gorgeous. 10th place is a car that's genuinely just underrated. No ifs, ands, or butt cheeks about it. The Toyota Mark II JZX100. Now, there's a little bit of a weird, like, gray area here because JDM cars in general are getting pretty overrated at this point, but the Mark II JZX100 is literally just the chaser JZX100 as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same in a different body. And for some reason, just because it's in a different body, it's like significantly cheaper. Nobody talks about it. Everybody just wants to say chaser. And maybe it's because of the looks, but if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I love the looks of the Mark II 10 times better than the chaser. I think the Mark II looks so much more aggressive than the chaser. It looks like such a better car than the chaser. I love the JZX100 Mark II. I want one so bad. And luckily for me, I could probably get one day because no one talks about them. I mean, the drifting guys, yeah, they talk about them for sure. Don't get me wrong. But, like, I don't know, man. I think it should be right up there with the chaser. It's like the same thing. 9th place is going for a twofer because I didn't want to put two different Lamborghinis here. It's the Lamborghini Diablo and the Lamborghini Gallardo. They're two completely different cars, don't get me wrong, but I am going to put them here together because, again, I just didn't want to put two different Lamborghinis on the list. It would be annoying. But both these cars, I believe, are super underrated. The Diablo is a just much better version of the Countach. I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know if I put the Countach in my overrated video, but I should have if I didn't because that car's just overrated in general. But the Diablo is such a beautiful car. Like, I would kill somebody to own a Diablo. And sure enough, you know, there are people out there that do talk about the Diablo, but I feel like, again, when people bring up like legendary Lambos, they bring up the Murcielago, which is valid because that's a massive W car, and the Countach and the Miura. Those are like the three legendary Lambos they bring up. They never talk about the Diablo though. And then the Gallardo is freaking sick, and it's like a $100,000 supercar. And no one really mentions it. Everybody just talks about Huracan. Hey, man, you want a Huracan nowadays? It's like, no, give me a Gallardo. I'll buy 3 Gallardos for the price of 1 Huracan. Coming in at the 8th position is going to the Lexus LC500, a $100,000 Lexus that people don't like the price of, and I will be 100% honest, I totally understand that hatred for it. The price of the LC500 is still ridiculously high, but I truly believe this is going to be one of those cars that, like, when our kids are growing up, they're going to be like, oh my god, dad, I want an LC500, it's only like $5 grand, and we're going to be like, dude, back in our day, those things are selling for 100 grand. What? I truly believe so. It's going to be just like the SC300. Like, these things are absolute gorgeous, beautiful luxury cars. Are they like the fastest car in this list? Absolutely not. They're heavy. They're a luxury car. They weren't meant to be like race cars. If you want a fast Lexus that's expensive AF, buy an RCF. It's just faster car. The LC500 is just just like an amalgamation of everything great, and it's still reliable. It's like if you wanted to buy like a German Mercedes level freaking luxury car, right? But you wanted reliability, you buy this thing, and it's so cool. 7th place is just a bunch of cars, and I'm going to bunch them all together here. It's V6 muscle cars. I get the hate around V6 muscle cars. I do understand it. If you are going to buy a Camaro or a Mustang or a Challenger or a Charger or Corvette, well, Corvettes don't have V6s, but those cars, if you're going to buy one of those cars, yeah, why not go for the V8, right? It's like, well, there's no real reason. There is a big reason. Money. If you don't have the money to afford a Camaro SS, but you really like the body lines of a Camaro, buy an RS. Like, I don't get the hate behind it. I understand if people are going to go around flaunting it like it is an actual, like, V8 powered Camaro. Yeah, that's annoying because it's almost like you're up badging this car, right? Like, people with 325i E46s don't go around acting like they have an M3, so why should you do that with your V6? I get if you're annoyed about them for that reason, but overall, these things are still pretty quick. Like, V6 Camaros are still making like 300 horsepower. They're still rear-wheel drive. They still look good. They're still fun. They still have a manual transmission. Just because they aren't a V8 doesn't make them any... Well, it does make them a little bit worse, if I'm being honest, but it doesn't mean that you should hate the guy just because he has a V6. Maybe he just couldn't afford the V8, man, and that's totally fine. 6th place is going to one of my absolute dream cars, and I'm surprised no one talks about it. It's the BMW 635 CSI E24, and you may be like, CSI, wait, is this thing going to solve crimes for me? No, it's just a BMW. It doesn't actually do that. I was really disappointed when I heard that too. But either way, the E24 is like absolutely gorgeous. One of the most beautiful BMWs ever made. It was built around the same time as the cars like the E30 was. Okay, so and I'm not, don't get me wrong, the E30 is a homologation hero. The thing was a legend in its racing. That car deserves its fame for sure. But the E24 does too. Where did we go wrong? Why did we just fall in love with the 3 Series BMWs and then every other series of BMWs we just like forgot about? Like, no one talks about them. Why are the 6 Series, the E24, F13, and then what was the other one in the middle? E63. Why are those cars not talked about? Like, especially the E24, the shark nose, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. And it did have a pretty good motorsport run too. It wasn't a slow car by any means. Fifth place is a 2 for 1, because I'm just feeling nice, and they're pretty much exactly the same cars. The Pontiac Grand Prix GXP and the Chevy Monte Carlo SS 7th generation. These cars are both GM products, and they both are front-wheel drive little economy cars that you would look at and be like, oh, there's nothing special about those, right? Yeah, but it's just another front-wheel drive car. But you're wrong, because these things had an LS in them. Yeah, they're front-wheel drive with an LS. That was the big downside. That's the reason why people don't like them, because they're front-wheel drive. But still, if you could get over the front-wheel drive part of it, dude, oh my God, you're going to be repaid in full. On top of that, the Pontiac Grand Prix. This is a history lesson, a Mark Roden history lesson you guys probably didn't know about. My sister got into a really, really, really bad accident when she was 19. She was like hospital bound for like 3 months. It was horrible. The car she crashed in was a Pontiac Grand Prix. My dad went to go look at the car the other day. It was in a junkyard, and the junkyard's getting like, everything's getting sold out of it. So he went to go look at it the other day, and he still to this day is like, I don't know how she survived that crash. And so that the Grand Prix holds a special place in my heart, for saving my sister's life. Great car. But even if it didn't do that, the cars themselves are also both just incredible. Fourth place is going to one that I've loved since I've laid eyes on it in Need for Speed Most Wanted when I was a wee little lad. The Renault Cleo V6. These things are mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, hatchbacks by Renault. You may be like, oh, he said mid-engine. Oops, he made a mistake. No, I didn't. No, these things are mid-engine. That's absolutely, just absolute baller status to me. These things are unreal cool. If you're a rally fan, you probably love these, but I'm an American, right? So there's not a lot of Americans out here that talk about cars like this. Hatchbacks from Europe. It's just not like something that we really talk about. Polos. The most popular hatchback over here is the GTI by far, and it's not even close. Like maybe the Ford Focus, but the Renault Cleo V6 overseas, yeah, you guys might think this car is like legendary, and you love it, right? But over here in America, no, nobody talks about it. Like no one cares that this thing even exists, and it's a legendary car. It should be talked about so much more than it is. Third place, however, is another car that I started loving the second I started playing Need for Speed Most Wanted back when I was a wee little lad, the Lotus Elise. I like track racing, okay? That's my thing. I used to love drifting. I still do love drifting, don't get me wrong. But I'm really into track racing, like the hill climb stuff. I like that stuff. So the tiny cars that handle really well is what I love. And the Lotus Elise is like the amalgamation of all of those, just stuffed into one incredible package. On top of that, I think the Lotus Elise looks absolutely sexy. Now, does the car come with just a Camry motor? Yes. Okay, yes it does. Is the car slightly unreliable? Yes, despite it coming with a Camry motor. I don't know how they did that, but it's Lotus, God bless it. But yes, it does have some slight transmission issues. Does it matter? No, because I want one. I want one so bad. There's these little pocket rocket cars. They're pretty much Miatas on steroids. I love that about them. They're not like super cheap or anything, so don't get me wrong. It's not like, you know, they're like the cheapest cars in the world, but they are still like around the 20 grand mark, and that's really not that bad when you think about what you're getting here. And they look so cool. Second place is definitely a car that does get love. Don't get me wrong, like people do talk about these things, but not as much as they should. The Nissan Skyline GTR R33. Now, is it still a GTR all-wheel drive car? Yes. The R32, R34, R33, R35 are all very loved cars. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like no one talks about these things. It's still really hard to find an R33 GTR for like less than 50 grand. Like these things are definitely wanted cars. But compared to its brothers, it makes no sense to me. Because the R32 is loved. Like an absolutely loved car, right? The R34 is ridiculous. Like that's just dumb. And then the R35... I don't think I have to convince anybody that the R35 is a good car, right? Everybody that knows about the R35 GTR likes the R35 GTR. The R33, it's like a mixed bag. You find people that are like, oh, yeah, like it. Was it heavier than the R32? Yes. Was it slightly just like not as influential as the R32? Yes. But why does the R34 get so much love when it really honestly didn't change much from the R33? Why? The R33 was an incredible car. It was an upgrade on the R32, and sure, it is a downgrade on the R34, but not by that much. It blows me away. But first place, the most underrated car in the car scene right now is, to me, the Porsche Cayman, and I'm talking both generations, the first gen, the second gen, both gens of the Porsche Cayman. Why? Because Porsche is incredibly overrated. You talk about the 911 GT3 RS to anybody in at like a seventh grade middle school, and they're all going to be like, oh yeah, that's the best car in the world, man. But you'd bring up the Porsche Cayman, they're going to be like, what's that? What is it? But why? Why is that the case? Are they slower? By a long shot. Yes, Pretty much. They're very slow. But are they significantly cheaper? Yes. Are they lighter? Yes. These are, again, a car like the Lotus Elise, where they're not meant to just go fast in a straight line. They're not meant to just go insane at the Nürburgring or at Le Mans. No, they're cars that you take to your local track and have an absolute blast just utilizing all the grip that Porsche put into these cars. This is like a dream car for me to drive. I would love to drive one of these on like a racetrack. They probably handle like such little go-karts, and the first gen aren't even that expensive. The second gen, you can easily find those under 100K. If you find just like a base model, you could probably find them under 50K. These things are like pretty much almost, they're sports cars, definitely not supercars, but they're kind of close to supercar status if you consider the handling as supercar handling, and they're dirt cheap, and it kills. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 15 most underrated cars in the car community today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like these. I'm in kind of a rush today because it's already 8 o'clock, and I'd like to get my videos uploaded before 9 o'clock, so I still have to download this video, edit this video, download that, upload it to YouTube, and I only have an hour to do that, so this outro is going to be short and sweet. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.